Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Katie. For those who are new here, welcome to the community, welcome to the family. I am a food product development specialist and I do food formulations for a living. So if this is the type of content that you would love to see or you're interested in, well, you can subscribe and hit that notification bell so that whenever I post a video you will be notified. Today we will be looking at basic food microbiology. It may be a little bit intense, but I'll try to simplify it as best as possible. So we're just gonna go basic things that cause food spoilage, how to avoid food spoilage, what to do if you have food spoilage, how to minimize, contain, things like that. Little some. All right, so what is microbiology? Always have to start with defining the stuff. Makes it simpler. So you might hear some big words, but if you just look up the meaning and think, then things will become much simpler and much easier for you. So microbiology is the study of living forms that can only be seen with a microscope. So microorganisms, things so small, and that's the things that can kill you, some of the things that can kill you can't even see them. So these microorganisms can only be seen with a microscope, but they cause devastating problems. Okay, so all raw foods contain microorganisms. We can't escape it. We have microbes on our skin, in our gut, in our hair, everywhere. We can't get rid of it. It's a symbiotic relationship between us and the microbes. We need them, they need us. Some of them are deadly, some of them are dangerous, some of them are actually helpful and we need them in our body. Probiotics, one such. It helps to clear the gut, regulate you, make sure that you can, release yourself regularly, frequently. It keeps the gut feeling nice and healthy. But we're not gonna get into this. All foods contain microorganisms, and of course we have the types that cause spoilage, right? So food preservation requires that microorganisms be controlled. These microorganisms can be devastating to your product, and you don't want to put a product out there that has a high microbial load and then people get sick and dead and you get sued and bag of problems and bag of things, right? No, we don't want that. So how do these microbes cause food spoilage? Just like us that have chemical processes and things that goes on in our body to keep us alive and well, these microbes have these chemical reactions, and some of these chemical reactions produces toxins, right? So these toxins are what causes these devastating effects from these microbes. So why do we study food microbiology? We study food microbiology because there are microbes that we can eat, right? So we have fungus, such as our mushrooms, right? Those nice big portobello mushrooms, those are actually fungi, right? But they're good fungi because mushrooms taste good for some people. When I really, the mushroom thing still. If it's in a something like a pasta or something, or the on pizza mixed up with a whole heap of cheese and so, maybe I can, but me now go out and add a mushroom and eat it. But hey, to each his own. So mushroom is a type of fungus, right? So we have yeast. Yeast is used in bread making. So of course, whatever the remnants of the yeast is still in the bread, so you eat it. But that is beneficial because it helps to rise the bread, and it's also used in fermentation. So to get the good old ethanol production. How beneficial, like symbiotic relationship, microbes, ethanol, Katie's belly. Yes. So we have bacteria, which are microbes that we can eat. So in our yogurts, things like that, right? So the yogurt has culture. When you look on the label, you will see active culture. It's actually a bacteria that causes the fermentation of the milk to give you the yogurt. So that is another microbe that we can eat. And the most important microorganism to the food manufacturer is the bacteria. Because as I mentioned before, the more these proliferate, especially the ones that causes spoilage, the worse it becomes, because the more toxins it produced and the more effect on the consumer that it will have. They affect food in varying ways. Some will secrete an enzyme that will decompose the food. Others, as I mentioned before again, will produce toxins, and these can be harmful because they can even lead to death depending on the type that is actually consumed. The one them will cause running belly. You ever eat a plate of food yet and it's like an hour after you just dip on the toilet? This is caused by food spoilage bacteria. The bacteria, if any of you have ever done the food handlers test, we learned that bacteria multiplies every 20 to 30 minutes. So it means that if you have a food, so the longer it stays out, the more bacteria will replicate, and the more, the bacterial load, the longer it is that it is out. So because we know the time it takes for them to replicate, we can do some damage control, and that is good. So there are things that we can put in place to help to slow or reduce the activity of the microorganisms. The next microorganism is the yeast, and these are generally more important because a lot of the foods on the shelf are in an acidic medium, meaning that they are in pH of 6 and below. And this type of medium does not affect the yeast, and so they can grow wild. So when we control the bacteria by limiting the pH where they can grow, or the environment where they can grow, then we have to worry about the yeast now, which is not really affected by this. Yeast are the principal cause of spoilage in like our jams and jellies, confectionaries. So in order for spoilage to occur, we need a water activity of greater than 6. So the more water that is in the product, then yeast can grow. The third and final microorganism that affects a food manufacturer are molds. And these molds will cause spoilage in, again, our confectionaries, breads, jams, anywhere where there is moisture and the temperature is favorable. So again, room temperature is a very good condition for the growth of these microorganisms. And when you have these favorable conditions, then you will notice that you may have a smell. So it smells musky, or it tastes, moldy. Like when you eat bread and you see the little green something on the bread, right? And it is generally visible. So you can see the growth of mold. Bacteria, you don't really see it unless it is one of those or type that may cause a color change. But with mold, almost always you will see a color. You will see something on the surface of the product. And I had mentioned the bread. Reducing the number of pathogens, especially in raw materials, require a farm to table approach. So from you go and collect the produce on the farm to when you take it inside and you prepare your meal, you are going to have to do or follow certain steps to help to reduce. So if you're going from the farm, you know that if you go outside, especially if it is something that is grown underground like ginger, carrot, things that are grown in them, you're going to have to take special care to clean and to sanitize those raw materials before you use it in a product to either cook and consume same time, or to put in a product to put on the shelf. And alluded to the conditions that are favorable for microbial growth, and I'm just gonna take some time to list them here. So it is the type and availability of nutrients, moisture content or water activity, the pH, and as I mentioned before, pH is basically how acidic or how basic or alkaline a particular substance is. Presence of growth inhibitors. Temperature. Different microorganisms require different things for growth. So depending on the nutrient that may be in the food, you have some of them that love sugar, some of them that may love fat, some of them that grow in milk, some of them that don't grow in milk, some of them that grow in meat, some of them that grow in juices or jams or sweet products as opposed to salt products. So depending on the type of bacteria, that is how they will grow. pH. How does the pH affect microbes? In general, bacteria grows fastest at neutral pH, and this is generally between 6 and 8 on the scale. So 7 is neutral and 7 is generally water. So 1 above, 1 below, that range of that 3 is the ideal pH for bacterial growth. For yeast, it is between 4.5 to 6, and for moles, it is generally 3.5 to 10. So we need to bear that in mind when we are doing our process. Water activity is another important substrate for microorganisms. I had mentioned that yeast and mold, the higher the water content or the higher the moisture content of that product, the more these organisms will proliferate. So that is why we have some preservation effects, such as that will dehydrate the product. So we use sugaring is one, salting is another, and then we can dehydrate the food. So if we dry it out, like when we have our dried fruits, so when you lower the water activity, these products will last longer. So different types of bacteria survive or need different temperature requirements. So depending on the type of bacteria, they may survive in different temperatures. So we're not exempt from bacteria. We have psychrophiles, which will proliferate at very low temperatures, and these temperatures are like 12 to 15 degrees. We have mesophiles, which are the ones that grow at ambient temperature or room temperature, and those are like your 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. There are also thermophiles that can survive at temperatures up to 70 degrees Celsius. We have different types of bacteria. So we've just learned that we have extreme cold, room temperature, and even in hot temperatures, these microbes can survive and can cause spoilage. So you need to know the type of microorganisms that you are working with. And of course, these can be checked by doing microbial analysis. So you can check out the places that offer these types of tests and go and give them a sample of your product, and they will tell you what kind of microbes are, if any, are present. But generally, when you are doing a food product, there are a few types of microbial analysis that are done. We do mesophilic plate count, yeast and mole. We do fecal coliform, and we do total coliform. So those 4 tests are generally what the food manufacturers will do. Now, depending on the type of product, you may need to do other types of microbial tests. So if you're doing canning, you may want to do, or vacuum packaging, you may want to do a test for Clostridium botulinum. You may need to do listeria if you're going to be doing like a milk-based or ice cream product, right? So you need to know, depending on the type of product that you are putting on the market, then you will ask the relevant lab or person, what kind of test do they recommend that they do when it comes on to microbial analysis for your product. So that is the end of what I wanted to share with you today. I hope it was informative, and I hope it has made things a little bit clearer and easier for you to understand. Again, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, and I will answer as to the best of my ability. Alright, so see you in the next video. Bye.